Hello, this is Roland. Welcome. Today I want to make a very brief video to point out something that's obvious, but it may not be obvious unless it's pointed out. Okay, and that is there's a way of doing. There are two ways of doing everything. For example, a person can tell if somebody grabs them or touches them with love or with anger. You can tell the difference, can't you? There's a difference in the touch. When you watch somebody that's angry doing something, you watch them preparing food or whatever they're doing, there's a difference, isn't there, if they're doing it angrily? Well, anger is just one emotion. There are many others. Or, yes, emotion, I guess that's the right word. So you can see how the intent of a person has an effect on how they do something. Now, what I wanted to say today is that what has happened to you is that you have been tempted to become angry. See, little children are not naturally angry. Somebody does something to them that makes them angry. Somebody, how many times have I seen it in a grocery store? A little child reaches for a box of cereal or something. And it's totally innocent. Who wouldn't want to, as a little child, who wouldn't want to reach for a box of cereal? Well, then what happens? The mother rips it out of the child's hands. Don't do that. Put that back. See? And when she rips it out of the child's hands, see, then the child becomes frustrated and starts crying or gets angry. See? It could be handled a different way. It could be handled totally differently. And I'm not going to, it's just so obvious how it could be handled in a different way. But I'm just giving you a simple example. So in your life, you've been tempted to want things. See, little kids, when you watch little kids, for example, when there's commercials on TV for some toy or other kids have a toy or something, and pretty soon they want that toy. Why is that? Sometimes there's a fad. There have been fads. You remember a long time ago, like there was a Cabbage Patch doll, and I don't know all the different fads, or what's happening now, but you remember, and then everybody wanted one. Then there was long waiting lines to buy it. Millions of people bought a certain thing. So it's a fad. See what I mean? But can you see how it's artificially created? It takes advantage of a weakness that we have. That when something captures our attention in a certain way and puts an idea in our mind, then we want it, for example. See? So what I want you to see is that you've been tempted. You didn't start off life wanting a lot of the things that you do. Look at all the things you do, what you buy, what you eat. See? Drugs you take, or alcohol, or cigarettes, or buying things, or whatever it is that you do. Certain habits, certain hobby. You didn't start off life that way, but somehow you acquired them. Now some things can be, what I'm trying to say is that there are different ways to do everything. There's a way that's natural, that just comes to you naturally. See? And then there's a way that's art you've been tempted. Well, the whole human race has been tempted from the very beginning. Okay, and you see it today. You see, we are just like Adam, in that we are tempted. Okay, but just understand this, based on a couple of simple examples that I've given you, that you've been tempted, see, by a whole bunch of stuff. But what happens is, once you've been tempted, see, I don't know how to, it's so difficult to convey this idea. There are two different ways of looking at things. See, a woman can tell if a man is looking at her with lust or with not lust. I don't know how to, what word to use. Like I said earlier, someone can tell if you grabbed them angrily or if you grabbed them with a quiet restraint. You know, the child is running for the street, and the little tiny toddler is running toward the street, and the parent swoops the little child up in the parent's arms. See, there's no anger there or anything. So that's a difference than grabbing someone angrily. See what I mean? So there are different, but see, the Bible talks about the lusts of the eye. Okay, and I don't know if it talks about the lusts of the ear. But can you tell the difference between someone who's just quietly sitting there doing something and other people are talking and it goes in the ear one out the other? Or when other people are talking some kind of gossip about someone and then the ear is listening to hear the gossip. See the difference? There's a difference between looking at a piece of pie sitting there, okay, or lusting, longing, hungrily, greedily, voraciously wanting that piece of pie. You see what I mean? But isn't that the way we become? I mean, it's a bit embarrassing. Let's be honest, it's a bit embarrassing. But we start to, I'll use the word lust. I can't think of what word to use for food. We have a unnatural hunger. Maybe an unnatural hunger is a better way of saying that. People can develop an unnatural hunger for sweets or for, see. So you got the idea. There's a lot I could talk about, but I just want to keep this very simple. So now, knowing that, what can you do? Well, you can just be aware of it. There's something about awareness that changes. Like, for example, have you ever been doing something? I'm just going to make something up. You're poking in your ear. I'm just making something up. You're poking in your ear, and you don't think that anybody's watching, and then all of a sudden you notice that somebody is watching you, and then you straighten up. You stop doing it, and you act more decency. You're being watched. See, somebody is aware of what you're doing. Okay? Well, you can be aware, start to have awareness of what you're doing. So before, if you were hungrily thinking of the pie, oh, if I could only have that pie and eat that pie, and you're hungrily thinking about it and fantasizing about it, and when you start thinking about it, it actually makes you hungry, doesn't it? See? But it's unnaturally being stimulated. You see what I mean? But then if you notice that, okay, you notice it, and then you just take a mental step back and notice that was what you were doing, and then go about your work. See how noticing it makes a difference? All right. So now, I often talk about my meditation, don't I, on these videos, and in my books, and in my radio program. Okay, I talk about it. Well, it's a way of learning to stand back a little bit. Learning to stand back and have a little mental distance. Okay? Because now what has happened is that you've been tempted by so many things that you've developed a habit of looking at everything. You've developed a habit of looking at everything having the effect. This is so difficult to word. The effect that a temptation has on, the effect that something that you want too much. Okay, let's use the example of the little kids, and then other kids have a toy, and the advertisers talk about that toy, and maybe that the child reaches for that toy in the store, and the mother rips it out of its hand, and so somehow these things then make the child want that toy, want it. Okay, well, there's a difference between the child thinks about that toy and looks at that toy than if the child had no interest in it whatsoever. That's a nice toy, but not. See the difference? Well, in your life, because people, everything has tempted you in a similar, like that, except more subtle. But so many things that now just about everything has some kind of a history associated with it. Could be a glass. There's a glass sitting there with a little bit of water. And maybe when you were 4 years old, you reached for the glass of water and it knocked it off the table, and then your mom yelled at you. And you started to cry. Well, see, so now that glass of water somehow attracts your attention. I'm just making an example up. You'll have to see for yourself. But the more aware you can become, the more you can practice my meditation, the more you can stand back a little bit, then you'll begin to see the effect that things have on you. See, remember the example I gave of the commercials on TV and the other kids having a toy and everybody talking about that toy, and then suddenly the child wants that toy. See, it's artificially created. Well, then that toy has an effect on that child, doesn't it? It can have such an effect that the child ends up trying to steal the toy. See, or steals money out of mom's purse to get the toy or something. You can imagine how that could happen, couldn't you? Well, all right, so everything around you, because you've been around tempted people who tempt. See, people who have been tempted, they themselves become tempters. Everything they do, the way they touch and grab something. Remember I talked about grabbing for something greedily, or grabbing for it angrily, or grabbing for it lustily, or grabbing for it impatiently. You see the difference between that and reaching for something gracefully. See, there's a big difference. Well, so you have been conditioned to look at and listen to everything and taste everything and touch everything and think about everything in that kind of a way, where it has an effect on you. Okay, so you need to learn how to counteract that, so you can go through life and things don't affect you. Things don't grab your attention. You give your attention. See? Things that you used to want, and lust after, and need, and hunger for. No. The glass of beer that you used to need. No thanks. See? So that way you become, where you will become disciplined and free from the effect of things on you. Okay? So that's where my meditation helps. See? That helps. There's a way of standing back. Okay? There's a way of standing back and defocusing. See? Defocusing. See, the first thing, anything that's had some kind of the effect on you, like I've been talking about, now it captures your attention. See? And then you look at it. It's like study. You study it. You see men studying women, looking women over. See? Or you see someone studying a catalog or studying, thinking of buying this and buying that. They're totally absorbed by it. See? So the capturing of attention then leads to the absorption process. See? And it interferes with your ability to concentrate. A lot of people, they say, well, I have a hard time concentrating. That's because everything has that effect on them. It captures their attention. So they're sitting there, and then somebody walks by, and then there's a text message, okay? And then they want to check their emails, and then they want to get something to drink. And see, everything captures their. And then they try to study a little bit, and then all of a sudden they want to check their text message. See, again. So you have if you're like the average person, you have very poor concentration. If you could learn to meditate with my meditation, then you would learn then things would have less effect on you, and your concentration would be much better. Much better. Okay? So, I'll just give you a simple example. For example, here's just a little mechanical thing. If you as you're sitting there now, if you look up, okay, maybe after this video is over, when you're not watching me anymore, But if you look up at some object on the wall that's above your line of sight, in other words, it's not level with your eyes, but it's above your eyes, so you look up at that object, okay? But without straining, you don't want to strain, but just look up at it. And as you look at that object, you'll notice that your field of vision opens up. If you look at something right in front of you, okay, but then you look up at an object where you're turning your eyes up and looking at it, notice that you'll be able to see in your peripheral vision. You have more peripheral vision. See how that opens it up? Well, that's in a little mechanical kind of a way. You can see sort of what we're looking for. You need to be able to defocus, to deconcentrate, defixate. That's the effect that temptation can have on you. You see kids nowadays, they're so tempted. They come from homes where there's lots of bad things happening, and there's way too much activity, and everything is too artificially stimulating. And they start to look at everything with that kind of attention that I've been talking about here. The effect that temptation has on us, okay? And so when they're trying to read, they read from word to word. Each word sort of captures their attention. And they have a hard time reading. A lot of people have a hard time reading. Whereas to look lightly, see, that's what they need to learn how to do. So you see how, my little example of how your peripheral vision opens up? Okay, here's another example. Let's say you're sitting on a bench and you're in the park, okay, and just relaxing. And you look off, and maybe there's a tree, okay? And then you can imagine how you could look at that tree intensely, okay? Well, there's a tree, and then a few feet away there's maybe a bush. I'm just making something up, a rose bush. So there's a tree and the rose bush, okay? So there's the tree, there's the rose bush, there's a tree, there's a bush. If you could practice just looking off into the distance, so there's the tree and there's the rose bush, and you're kind of looking at them both at the same time. Okay? You see that there's a tree and there's the rose bush, but you're not fixating on either one of them. You see how that kind of gives you a little bit of mental little ability to kind of stand back and get the big picture. Okay? Well, those are just a couple of little tiny mechanical examples, okay, of how you can, okay? Another one more little mechanical example. As you're sitting somewhere, I'll use the example of sitting on a nice park bench again and looking around. If you can become aware of your hands, or your hand, whichever is easiest. See, some people it's easier for them to be aware of both hands. For some people it's easier to be aware of one hand. Either way is fine. But I'll just say hands, okay? And just notice your hands as you're sitting there. Just lightly notice your hands and as you're sitting there. And sometimes it helps to close your eyes, okay? And then notice your hands until your hands become a little tingly. Like you can notice one thing, you can notice your thumb, for example. Let's say you're noticing one hand. Let's say you're noticing your right hand. So there it is on your lap, and you're relaxing. And then you notice your thumb. In other words, you pay attention. You gently pay attention to your thumb. You notice that your thumb is there, that your thumb exists. And as you do so, it'll become a little bit tingly. Okay? Then you notice your first finger. You feel your first finger. You sense your first finger. You gently notice your first finger, and it becomes a little tingly. And then you notice your second finger. See, and then your third finger. You can notice one finger at a time. It helps you to notice them. And then your whole hand. You notice your hand is a little tingly. Well, you know what that does? It gives you a little bit of separation again. See, you're more self-composed. You're not lost out there in the world. See, you're more centered with a little bit of detachment. It's very good. Okay. In my meditation, I also talk about closing your eyes and looking at the inside of your eyelids, noticing the little glow of light on the inside of your eyelids, little pixels of light on the inside of your eyelids. Okay? When you do that, it takes you out of the imagination. See, I'll just mention one more little thing. I think I did a fairly decent job of describing the effect that things have on us when we've been artificially stimulated to need them, want them, pay attention to them. They grab our attention, see? And people are good at doing that, aren't they? See? You need to learn to be able to stand back. For example, I'll give you an example, a real live example. Albert Einstein, very nice man, see? And he kept his innocence. But anyway, when he was a young man, teenager, maybe a kid and a teenager, I think a teenager, he was sitting at the back of the math class. Okay? He didn't do very well in school until later on, incidentally. It was too constricting for him. But anyway, he sat back there with kind of a smile on his face. You know, like, remember Alfred E. Newman from Mad Magazine? Kind of like, what, me worry? So Albert Einstein sat back there with kind of a smile on his face. And there was a teacher that hated him. He hated him because he saw that he hadn't captured Albert Einstein's attention. See? Albert Einstein was still free. See? What? Me worry? Like Alfred E. Newman? Well, later on, that teacher had to acknowledge that Einstein became a brilliant genius, and scientist, and mathematician, okay? But when he was a teenager, the teacher somehow didn't like him not paying rapt attention, see? Okay, well, you got the idea. Oh, now I forgot what I was going to say. Okay, it was so good. Oh, yes, I just wanted to mention that I talked about the effects things have on us. Well, the other effect that things have on us is that they throw you into thought, into imagination. See? They capture your attention, and then let's say a person captures your attention, then they talk, blah, 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 blah. They can capture your attention, so you float away thinking about what they're saying and imagine in your mind what word pictures, you see? So that's another effect. Now they've got your mind. They're putting word pictures in your mind. Okay? Well, that's innocent enough when you're a kid and you're listening to a story on the radio, or listening to someone tell a story, or you're reading a novel, something that you enjoy reading, a novel, and you're imagining the scene. That's innocent enough when you're a kid, okay? But just bear in mind that temptation out there in the world will do the same thing and capture your mind. So that's why looking at the inside of your eyelids is so good, because when you do that, you're suddenly not lost in thoughts. See, now you're back in the present again. So the little things, mechanical things that I've mentioned, help you to be in the present, to stand back a little bit, have a little bit of mental distance, like Albert Einstein, okay? Not be so affected by things. Then you'll be calmer, more composed, not upset. You'll be able to think more clearly, focus better. A lot of very practical benefits to this. Okay? My name is Roland.